Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Finding somewhere affordable to rent in Australia is near impossible. Nightly news bulletins across Australia are filled with footage of rental inspections queued out of the doors in cities and regions alike. Data from CoreLogic shows that rents have increased by 8.5% since last year alone, 33% since 2021. Meanwhile, wages are rising at just over 4% a year. In March 2024, PropTac found that less than 40% of advertised rentals were affordable for a typical income household. The rental market is sometimes forgotten amongst the debate on housing affordability, with reports instead focus on home ownership. But the reality is that a functional and affordable rental market is important for job movers, students and young people, temporary migrants and many more, including older women. Not to mention that a higher cost of renting pushes back home ownership for those who aspire to own their own homes. It also adds pressures to our inadequate public and social housing system. The most recent national data we have of 2022 shows that 175,000 people are on the wait list for social housing, a number that has undoubtedly worsened as the private market has increased in price. To their credit, the government has introduced several policies that aim to use what levers the federal government has in this space. I have supported measures such as the HAF, as I have supported measures to increase Commonwealth rent assistance, while noting that the increase didn't go far enough. The build-to-rent sector is a small but growing part of Australia's housing supply. EY have previously estimated that build-to-rent represents only about 0.2% of the value of housing stock. This is compared to 5% in the United Kingdom and 12% in the UK. Estimates suggest that it could grow to around 3% of housing, with an additional 180,000 dwellings by 2028. At this stage, and this point in our housing market, all options need to be on the table. This bill will increase the capital works reduction from 4% to 2.5% and reduce the final withholding tax on managed investment trusts from 30% to 15% for eligible build-to-rent developments. According to Hamilton Locke, this would bring withholding tax in line with commercial property, as well as reducing the depreciation period by half. However, these conditions are subject to build-to-rent conditions, including a requirement for 10% of homes to be available as affordable. This bill is important, and I support the action taken, although I am cautious about an early celebration. The measures included need to form part of a package that makes the development of housing and construction in Australia more viable to investors. Tax settings alone will not lift our housing approvals and completion numbers that set at record lows. We need to be finding ways to free up capacity in the broader construction sector to lower the input costs of development. And according to the ABS, construction costs are actually up by 30% on 2019 values. The Property Council has also warned that these measures to bring build-to-rent investments in line with other types of property are undermined by the mandated provision of affordable housing. Acknowledging the need for more affordable housing, the Property Council have advocated for a differentiated withholding tax of 10% for affordable housing investment or other forms of additional incentives to be applied. This also highlights a current issue we have with the inconsistent definitions of affordable housing. In New South Wales, for example, affordable housing is defined as not requiring more than 30% of income, which is often incongruous with how affordable rents are set based on a 20 to 25% discount off the market. Even with this discount, supposedly affordable housing in my electorate in Wentworth is still well above what a low-income household could afford. While I acknowledge the concerns of the Property Council and others, I am hesitant to vote against a bill that seeks to add to housing supply, as I am hesitant to move amendments to adjust the investment attractors of BTR by removing provisions for affordable housing. I understand that a delicate balance needs to be struck between the provision of affordable housing and investment attractiveness, and also understand that affordable housing does not work for every development proposal. But ultimately, with vacancy and housing approvals at the current level, I am not assured that the market will accommodate the needs of all renters under the current condition. The government will however, need to monitor the settings in this bill and adjust accordingly if the desired outcomes are not met. Secondly, Deputy Speaker, I'd like to talk about the other component of the bill, another key component of the bill, which is about small businesses, and particularly the $20,000 instant asset write-off to small businesses. I strongly support this measure, just as I was supportive of the same measure put forward last year that is still yet to pass this parliament. Small businesses are doing it tough. I speak to many of these in my electorate and have very strong memories of running a number of smaller businesses myself, and the real struggles, to be honest, during periods of economic downturn and uncertainty, as you're trying to make sure that you can continue to provide employment for those people that you employ, but still trying to meet your needs of your customers, which can vary, particularly in situations where there is economic uncertainty. And you can see, the difficulties for small businesses in the numbers, because according to ASIC, the number of insolvencies has increased by 36.2% since March last year. That is a huge rise. Measures such as this $20,000 instant asset write-off provide much-needed support to small business in hard times by making it easier for businesses to acquire or upgrade assets essential to their businesses, like the purchase of a new car or coffee machine or other infrastructure that they need. But when government makes promises in budgets that it's not able to meet, the business community loses faith. And I think this has been a really terrible example in the last budget. I have been speaking to small businesses owners recently who, until the past week, were unsure if the measures in the budget from last year would be passed in this financial year. We are on June 26 today, and it was very uncertain whether, in the last month, whether these measures would be passed in this financial year. So people who listened to the budget announcement last year and said, "Oh, great, I've got instant asset write-off," may have gone out there, purchased an asset expecting to write off, not following the daily machinations of Parliament and not realising that the legislation wasn't actually passed and dealing with that uncertainty. Even if the legislation passes this week, the ABC reports that for many it will be too late to make the necessary purchase before the deadline. And I just think this is so wasteful in a time of economic uncertainty, in a time when small businesses are doing it so hard to not, frankly, be able to deliver the outcomes that the small businesses are expecting and relying on and taking the government's word on. I'm pleased to see that a deal has finally been struck, to see the previous year's bill passed. But the inability to do this before, the literally sneaking in before the 30th of June, really undermines confidence in the business community in government. And I think the government must do better in this space. We must we must support our small businesses and give them much more certainty in their dealings with government, so that they can feel certain that when the government says something that they're going to do that's going to support small business, that it actually eventuates. Thank you.